My name is Anna Miti, and I officially welcome you to the program, The Big Question. As I mentioned earlier today that we're talking about democracy and development. So with me in the studio, very distinguished guest. He's been all over the world, having been traveling in more than 101 countries, where he gets to talk about this issue and others. His name is Professor Dr. Peter Baofu, who's written over 150 books that looks at the social sciences, the humanities, the natural sciences, and the formal sciences in relation to the mind, the social, the society, nature, and culture. And he also looks at his visions of what the future of humanity is like. But yeah, that's cool. But still on the issue of the evolution, that to get everybody understanding, what you mean when you say, all these things, they'll pass, and we come into a future where people will think differently, the world will operate differently, and will have evolved as humanity, not just as Zimbabweans or Africans, but as humanity as a whole. Mm-hmm. Yeah, tell us a little bit about.
Yeah, one example that I want to give, and that can be very interesting to talk about, is that I see a lot of good things about Africa. Mm-hmm. I disagree with the idea that Africa is underdeveloped. I disagree with the idea that Africa is very poor. Mm-hmm. I see a lot of things which make me believe that Africa is very rich in many ways, not just in terms of resources, but in terms of mindset. Let me give you some examples. For example, people in Africa is much more hospitable, much more friendly. Yes. For example, than if you go, let's say, to Japan, or if you go to Germany, and if you are black, and you will see how they treat you. Yes. There's racism, of course, there is. But if the Japanese and the German come to Harare, how do you treat them? Mm. Do you treat them in the same way they treat you in Japan or Germany? You see that? Now there is a question of hospitality and humanity that other people may not even have. Now there is a question of civilization too, by the way. You see, the way we define civilization in the West, we define the definition, we give the definition of civilization in such a way that we make everyone look bad. And the West is always the golden standard again. See? But the problem here is that if you look on the other side, things is not necessarily like that. Spirituality, by the way, in many ways, is also a fundamental indicator of development, if you think about it. Mm. So in that way, think about this too, is that the way of life in Africa is very stress-free. The way of life in America, by contrast, is very stressful. Why do you think people take all these drugs? How come you see such a huge market, a drug trafficking, let's say, in America? And so many people consume drugs. Why? It is such a wonderful society, and that you are thinking about why people consume so many drugs. It's very stressful in many ways. And many of them drink a lot too. So why? Think about this. And in Africa, it's very stress-free. And that's why here, people laugh a lot. I mean, the way that people behave is very stress-free. But now, the trade-off for that is that when you are so stress-free and so laid back, they mean that you don't do too much. We have this way of life, again, apples and oranges. You want to work a lot, achieve a lot, you get a lot, but you are very stressful. On the other hand, when you are very laid back, you are happy-go-lucky, fine. But in the end, you may not have much, so I don't think that either one is good or bad. It's good and bad. But which one do you choose? It's you. You have to decide, what do you want? That's one of my question to you again. What do you want?
Dr. Peter Baofu is an author, a scholar, and many, many things. And he was here to answer the big question that we had for you this evening. Do stand by for the news bulletin at 8, coming up next.